Welcome everybody. Today for our Business Boost Live webinar, we've got Kimberley Roberts-Salee from Cyber Wardens. We have half an hour, and if you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the Q&A section that you'll see the button for below. We'll try to answer as many of these as we can further on in the webinar. Cyber Wardens is an initiative of the Council of Small Business Organisations of Australia, or COSBOA, that I'm sure you've all heard of and that ALNA is a member of, and also the federal government. Today's critical topic of cybersecurity for small businesses is, I guess, unfortunately, one of those issues that we come to every year, and unfortunately, it seems to get bigger every year with AI, obviously the most significant change we've probably ever experienced in our lifetimes. It's becoming more important than ever to understand what you can do to protect your small business and how to do it. And I've been really looking forward to discussing this issue again because I guess as small business owners and operators, understanding what to do proactively is the biggest challenge, but also specifically understanding what not to do to protect yourselves is incredibly important. So Kimberley, welcome and thanks for being our guest today.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Terrific. Now, Kimberley's going to take us through quickly the Cyber Wardens program to start with. And just to remind everyone, if you'd actually like to get your Cyber Wardens certificate as part of watching the webinar today, you can actually do that. And Kimberley's going to show us a QR code during her presentation that if you scan, you'll be able to register your details and actually be able to get your certificate for the program. So I might hand over to you, Kimberley, if you'd like to take us through the presentation.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ben. And hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. As Ben mentioned, my name is Kimberley Roberts-Salee. I'm one of the Cyber Wardens educators on the team, and I'm really excited to be talking you through the small business cyber risks that face your small business today and some of the red flags that we need to be able to identify to be able to know that we might be the target of a cybercrime, and of course, how to stop those in their tracks. So before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm presenting from today. So for me, that's the Ngunnawal and the Ngambri people, and from which you're joining this webinar. I recognize their continuing connection to lands, waters, and communities, and pay respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. So let's launch right into it. As Ben mentioned, Cyber Wardens is an initiative of the Council of Small Business Organisations of Australia, which you would know as COSBOA. And it's a free Australian government-funded program designed specifically for small businesses, sole traders, and small business employees. So at its core, Cyber Wardens is developed in really accessible language. We're here to make sure that you are able to get some actionable tips from the program. We do away with tech jargon. You don't need to have a tech background or an IT background. It's really delivered in relatable terms. And I hope that by the end of this webinar, you'll agree with me that this is a very accessible and simple program. We're here to make sure that we make your life easier to protect your business. So on the agenda today, we're going to have a look at the most common types of cybercrimes that target small businesses, the red flags that you need to be able to identify, why cyber safety is a team sport, and the importance of really making sure that everybody in your business is across these cybersecurity basics. Some of the habits that we all have online and how to break them to make sure that we're safer. So we say bad habits to break, but also on the flip side, it's also good habits to instill. And by the end of the webinar, you will become a Cyber Warden. So after this webinar, as Ben mentioned, you'll receive your Cyber Warden certificate via email. It takes about 24 hours, so just give it a bit of time for it to come through your inbox and make sure you check your spam as well. And then, of course, you'll be part of the Cyber Wardens community, so you'll be able to expand your knowledge. We have other levels of Cyber Wardens courses. We have level 1, which is a deeper dive into some of the concepts that we'll be looking at today. Level 2 is our Safe AI for Small Business. And as Ben mentioned today, of course, AI is a huge hot topic at the moment. So that course takes you through how to use AI safely for your business, but also how AI is generating scams and what we need to be aware with the prevalence of AI within our business. And then Cyber Wardens Level 3 is our supply chain cyber fitness course. So every small business is part of a supply chain, whether we know it or not, whether we acknowledge it or not, or we're aware of it. We're all part of a supply chain, and it's really important that you are one of the strongest links in your supply chain and not the weakest. So as Ben mentioned, there is a QR code. If you want to receive your certificate, please make sure to scan this QR code. I'll leave it on the screen for a few seconds. If you don't have a phone with you and you're on desktop, you can also put the link at the bottom there, cyberwardens.co/CW-form, and that will take you to our registration form. And from there, you'll be able to receive your certificate. So I'll leave it on the screen, and I promise it's up at the end as well so that you are able to scan it as well. I'll give you a few more seconds and we'll move on. So cybersecurity, when we asked small businesses, so we did 2 lots of research in the past 2 years, and we asked small businesses what they perceive as the biggest threats for their business. And not surprisingly, the most recent lot of data showed us that economic instability and cost of staff are really out there at the top of concerns for small businesses. But what we see is that at a very close third, cybersecurity threats came in, and more than half of respondents cited cybersecurity threats as something that concerns them. So when you look at this slide here, you can see that most of those factors are all things that are out of our control. So we can't control inflation, cost of staff, weather events, pandemics. But the one thing that we can control is our resilience to cybersecurity threats. So that's where Cyber Wardens comes in. Got a little quiz for all of you, and I promise this is not pass or fail. It's really just to test your knowledge in a fun way. We've got a few questions. If you just want to put your answers either in the chat or just hold them in your head, we'll go through them and it'll help you position your own knowledge of cybersecurity. So my first question is, how many cyber attacks do you think are reported every day? So we've got 38, 121, or 240, and that's reported every day in Australia only. So I'll give you a few seconds to have a think, or to pop them in the chat if you want. You can keep your answer to yourself as well if you're not sure. Give you a few more seconds, and I shall reveal. So we're looking at 240. So essentially every 6 minutes, an attack is reported in Australia. Basically, by the end of this webinar, 5, 6 attacks will already have been reported. And when we think of that number, it's really important to remember that's only really just the tip of the iceberg. So if you think of dodgy texts or emails that you might have received, phishing links that you might have received that you didn't necessarily click on, I'm sure that you haven't reported them every time you receive them. So there is quite large amount of cyber attacks that don't go reported. Usually the more significant ones are the ones that go reported. So really that number is really just the tip of the iceberg and shows the scale of the problem. Now, my next question is, how much cybercrime do you think targets small businesses? Again, those are Australian figures. So we've got 16%, 43%, or 67%. Give you a few seconds to ponder, and I'll reveal the answer. And so we're looking at 43%. So 43% is nearly half of all cybercrime is targeting small businesses specifically. Now, when we spoke to small businesses and we asked them what they thought of the prevalence of cybercrime, a lot of them said that they're too small for cyber criminals. They think that cyber criminals want to target businesses like Optus, Medibank, Qantas, all the big ones that we hear of in the news. But really the reality is cyber criminals are opportunistic. So they're really there to pick at the lowest hanging fruit. And often that'll be small businesses, because small businesses don't necessarily have the same IT or cybersecurity infrastructure that those big players like Optus do. Although Optus is probably not a great example right now. But all of those big corporations have quite robust cybersecurity infrastructure. Small businesses also have fewer staff, fewer resources. A lot of people wear many hats in a small business, so they're very busy. And cyber criminals basically just prey on the fact that small business owners and their employees are too busy to pay attention to detail. And that's often how they fall prey to cyber attacks. My next question is, how much does a cyber attack cost on average? So we've got 9,500, 49,600, and 57,300. Give you all a second to have a think. And I'll reveal the answer at 49,600. So essentially $50,000. That's the average cost of a cyber attack. Yeah. And I'm sure, Ben, that you can speak on behalf of all your members when we say that $50,000 for a lot of businesses, that's actually enough to decimate them completely and to unfortunately force them to close their doors. When I think of all the things that I could do with $50,000, it certainly doesn't involve funneling that money to cyber criminals for it to be lost forever. And it's also really important to remember that's just the financial cost of a cyber attack, but there are so many other intangible costs that come with a cyber attack. So mental health issues or reputational damage, damage to your employees as well. So your employees might feel their mental health or their well-being threatened as well. So there are quite a lot of other costs that come with cyber attacks that are not necessarily monetary. And then the last question is, how many attacks do you think are caused by human error? So we've got 95%, 54%, and 23%. Again, I'll give everyone a few minutes to have a think. And I will share that we're looking at 95%. So that's 19 people out of 20, or 19 attacks out of 20 that are caused by human error. And so when I say this, I'm not, it's not to highlight the fact that it's, I'm not trying to victim blame or to people blame. It's really just to make us aware that cybersecurity at its core is a human behavior issue. It's not a tech issue. It's often caused by things like clicking on the wrong link or paying a fake invoice or not paying attention to detail in an email and actioning it without necessarily thinking it through. So it's really important in light of that statistic that we make sure that all of our team, if we work with employees, all of our team is across cybersecurity. So let's talk about those most common types of cyber crimes. There are 3 common types of cyber crimes that target small businesses. The first one is inbox break-ins or business email compromise. And that one is essentially exactly what it says on the box. It's when a cyber criminal is able to break into your inbox and your email inbox, and from there launch secondary attacks. We're going to spend a bit of time on that specific crime in the next slide because there are quite a few secondary attacks that can come from an inbox break-in. And an inbox break-in is often at the source of multiple other attacks that cyber criminals can launch. The next one is fake invoices. So when we talk about fake invoices, what cyber criminals will do is once they've broken into your inbox, they're able to have access to either your own invoices or your supplier invoices. So let's say they get a hold of your accountant's invoice. What they'll do is they'll replicate the invoice. It'll look exactly the same. It's quite easy with any kind of graphic design software to replicate an invoice. They'll make it look the same branding, same layout, but they'll change the banking details so that when you think that you're paying your accountant, you're actually paying the cyber criminals. On the flip side, they can do that with your invoices as well. So if you operate on sending your customers invoices, maybe not necessarily your members then, but if you do send customer invoices, cyber criminals can copy your own invoice and send it to your customers, getting them to pay the cyber criminal rather than yourself. So you can stand to lose money by paying the fake invoice. You can stand to lose your reputation by having your customers pay cyber criminals, and then, of course, be angry that they've paid a cyber criminal and refuse to pay your own invoice as well. And then the last one is banking burglary or online banking fraud. That is when cyber criminals are able to access your bank accounts directly. Often they'll do that through credential stuffing. Credential stuffing is when cyber criminals are able to get a hold of your login credentials, so your combination of login and password. And if you use the same login and password for all of your accounts, what they'll do is they'll just use that combination across multiple accounts online. They do that in an automated way, so it takes them a few seconds, And anything that sticks, basically, they'll hit the jackpot. So if it sticks on your banking account, they're able to access it. And then once they're in your bank account, of course, they can operate as yourself. So they can do all the transactions that they want and transfer money into their own account. So we talked about your inbox being a launchpad for a secondary attack. So just quickly, let's have a look at what that can look like. So if you think of everything that you store in your inbox, you might have supplier invoices, you might have business files and data, so sensitive information. You'll have employee information, passwords and logins. And so once cyber criminals are in there, they can impersonate you, they can impersonate your staff, they can impersonate your suppliers and send you those fake invoices. They can search for those passwords and logins and then action what we talked about before, the credential stuffing. And so if you are sharing your passwords and logins via email with someone else, with an employee or a colleague, for example, if they see that combination, it's really easy then for them to go ahead across all of your accounts and apply that same combination, hoping that one of them sticks. And so how do we protect not only our inbox, but essentially all of our accounts online? If there's two things I want you to take from this webinar, and something that you can start actioning right away after this webinar, is we want to make sure that we protect all of our accounts online with long, strong, and unique passwords. So that's usually a minimum of about 14 random characters, if not more. And that'll be a mix of capital case, letters, numbers, symbols, and basically just something that cyber criminals won't be able to guess. Now, once we've got that long, strong, unique password enabled on an account, we want to add multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication is that second layer of security. You would, I'm sure you've all used it before. You'll get it maybe in the form of a text message or an email that you need to validate, or an app that you need to open. So that second layer of protection means that you are essentially making it almost impossible for cyber criminals to access your account, because your identity needs to be verified in another on another device or in another on another platform. So I know you're going to say, I've got 200 accounts online. I don't have time to do this across all of my accounts. Fair enough. What I would say to this is, if you start with your most significant accounts to start with, so that's your inbox, your social media, especially if you use social media for business, any of your government accounts and your bank accounts to start with, and then you can work your way through other accounts that you have online to make sure that you're protecting them as you go. So what are some of the red flags that we need to be aware of now that we know what the crimes are, the most common types of cyber crimes are? Let's have a look at how we can recognize them. So the first one is unexpected invoices. So that goes along with the fake invoices that we talked about before. And so cyber criminals will bank on the fact that you're really busy, that you don't necessarily pay attention. You receive an invoice, you weren't necessarily expecting an invoice from your accountant, but you don't really have time to check it. You just go ahead and pay it. And that's one box ticked and one thing off your plate. And not conversely, sorry, going hand in hand with that is the change of banking details for a usual supplier. So often those fake invoices will have new banking details. So most businesses now, all of your accounting software is all automated. So you would have a supplier in your accounting software. Let's say you use Xero. Their banking details will already be into their account for Xero. So if you're prompted to update those details to make a payment, that's when the red flag should start waving and the alarm bell should start ringing. So anytime you're prompted to pay a new bank account for an existing supplier, always double check with that supplier before you go ahead and pay that new banking account. So,
and it's the best thing to do there just to ring the supplier?
Exactly. And so what I would say as well is call the supplier directly, but make sure that you source their phone number not from the invoice, because often the cyber criminals will have updated the phone number as well. So you'd be calling them basically, and they'll say, yes, of course, that's a new bank account. So you want to source that independently. If you have their phone number in your phone, or if you go on their websites, always verify. And I mean, if there's new banking details, but if you want to be extra careful, just verify regardless before you pay an invoice, especially a significant invoice. Just call them, just double check the banking details. And I mean, it's short-term pain for long-term gain, and it's just a few seconds of your time, but could save you thousands of dollars. The next one is uncommon or misspelled email addresses. So you can see this one here has an extra S. Now, we're all very busy. You probably all receive tens, if not hundreds of emails a day. I doubt that you're all looking at the email address every time an email comes in. And so again, that's what cyber criminals are banking on, that you're not going to notice. Often the sender's name is going to be someone that you recognize, and that's how they're able to impersonate. So it'll be someone either in a position of authority, like your boss, or it might be a customer, so someone that you want to make sure that you respond to right away or quickly. And it'll be a request like, please pay this invoice, or please transfer me some money. So we always want to make sure that we look at the email address especially when a request is related to any kind of financial transaction. And again, going hand in hand with that is the pressure to act urgently or confidentially or unusual requests. So if you're receiving an email, for example, from your CEO in this example, you probably have a good idea of how your CEO talks. If they're asking something that is completely out of the blue for them, that's not something that they would ever ask you, and they're telling you not to tell the rest of the team, those are all red flags. Essentially, in that instance, I often say to people, just trust your gut. Does it sound like the CEO? Does it sound like Ben asking you to transfer $5,000 because he is stuck in Italy somewhere? Probably not. I'm sure you'd like to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's just a good idea to just always trust our gut on that, and just thinking, would that person actually ask me to do that, and is that what they sound like when they email me? And then if you're unsure, just again call them directly on the phone, independently from the email, to double check the request. And the next one is unusual or hidden links, what we also know as phishing links. Phishing links are links that will prompt you to go into enter your credential details your login details, on an account that you recognize. So for example, this one here is a fake message from Facebook saying that your Facebook page is going to be deleted if you don't log in right away to rectify the situation. Once you log into your Facebook account or your Facebook account, they are able to capture those credentials and again use those across other accounts. So again, it always comes back to the credential details and making sure that we have strong, unique passwords everywhere. And then the last one is suspicious attachments on emails or social media messages. So I think at this point in time, most people know what an image will come through in terms of the file extension. So it'll be like a JPEG or a PNG or a PDF. If you get an attachment that looks like a file extension that you haven't seen before, so in this case, we're looking at RAR. RAR is ransomware. So of course, you're receiving an image of a product that is proclaimed to be faulty, and you want to make sure that you rectify the situation right away for your customer. So that's where they're, again, using urgency to get you to open the message. But once you open that attachment, unfortunately, the ransomware, what it does is it'll basically freeze access all your data, all your files on your computer or on your phone, and request a ransom for you to gain access back. So it's a type of malware, and it's something that we really need to be cautious of when we receive attachments in messages from someone that we don't necessarily know. So we talked about 95% of cyber attacks being or involving human error. So let's have a look at why that is and how we make sure that we build this culture of cyber safety in our team. So there's a few reasons why us as humans are our team's biggest vulnerability. The first one is the lack of training. So traditionally, as we know, cybersecurity training can be quite expensive. It can be quite extensive as well. So often it's part of a degree. It's part of a longer course, and it's quite daunting or intimidating for people to undertake cybersecurity training. So that's why our courses are free, they're simple, and they're jargon-free to really make sure that you get those basics. And the next one is human error. So we talked about human error that can look like anything from paying that fake invoice, clicking on that link by accident, sharing those passwords with other team members or with people through email, or just sharing the passwords across the team. Another one is working off-site. So if let's say you're at a cafe and you've got your laptop open and it's a busy cafe, if you think whatever's on your screen, anybody is able to see it. And often when I'm working offsite, you're kind of in your own bubble. You don't really realize who's around you. You don't really think about what's coming, what's going on around you. But anything you can see on your screen, everybody can see. So you want to make sure that you don't really deal with sensitive data on your screen when you're in a public place. And again, when you're entering passwords or login credentials on your laptop, people can see that as well. So you want to make sure that you just pay attention to what's going on without being, overly paranoid. It's just important to make sure that we have awareness of our surroundings. And the next one is being busy and missing details. So we've talked about that in terms of we wear many hats as small business employees or owners, and cyber criminals just bank on the fact that you'll just tick things off, click on that link, open that attachment just because you don't have time to think. So again, it's a few more seconds, but always pause and think before you action anything that seems suspicious. And then the last one is personal targeting. So personal targeting is when cyber criminals are able to make a picture of your social profile. So often they'll glean that from your social media profile or any information that's out there on the web about you, and they can paint a picture of you and use that to impersonate you to people that you know or to your staff. So again, it's just important to make sure that what we share online, we're always quite aware of it. And, if you're sharing your favorite footy team or pictures of your pet, make sure that's not your password as well, because that's a really easy one for cyber criminals to guess. So if you're sharing about, your cat, make sure that that's not your password as well. And so let's look at cyber habits to avoid before I declare you cyber wardens. So there's a few habits here. If we were all in a room right now together and I asked everyone by show of hands to admit as to whether they have done any of those habits, I'm sure that everybody would raise their hands, myself included, to be really honest with you. I don't know, Ben, if there's anything that you see on there that you can definitely recognize you have done before.
There might be a couple.
Yeah. And so this is not to lay blame on anyone or to embarrass anyone. It's really just to make us aware that what we do online that we think is really innocuous is actually what is making us more vulnerable. So snoozing a software update or putting your laptop in sleep mode, that prevents your device from updating and applying really important security patches to your software or to your devices. Paying for one software license or sharing logins or casual staff login. And I'm sure that some of your members would have casual staff as well, where everybody's using the same login. When we do that, it's twofold. Some people on your team might have access to data or to inboxes that they don't necessarily need. So making sure that admin privileges to each team member is relevant to their job description. And also, if everyone's sharing the same login, and a cyber attack does occur, it's really hard then to pinpoint the source of the attack as well. So it's really important to make sure that everybody has their own login where possible, or to really restrict admin privileges to only the people that need to have those privileges. The next few are all about password hygiene. So we talked about making sure that we have long, strong, unique passwords in addition to multi-factor authentication, and making sure that we get a password manager to manage all of those, and not just a password spreadsheet on your computer, or worse still, a post-it note on your laptop screen, which I've seen before and which I have done, to be honest. So making sure that we use an encrypted piece of software like a password manager to secure our passwords. And then the last one is a bit of a funny one, but when we talked before about personal targeting and social engineering, adding personal details to your out-of-office messages really paints a picture of what you're doing. So again, Ben, if you were in Italy and you put in your email that you're on leave for a month, you are in Italy, and you'll be back, you'll be in Italy between those dates, it's really easy for a cyber criminal to then go, okay, I know that he's in Italy, I can target his team by saying, I'm stuck in Italy, I've lost my credit card, please transfer $5,000 out of the business account, which I'll pay back when I come back. Just little details like that make it really believable for anyone receiving the email. So when we put our out of office message on, my recommendation is just to keep it as generic as possible. I know it's really exciting to talk about your holiday and to let people know that you are going on leave, but it's safer to just be very generic about it. So I would encourage you to take a screenshot of this. Of course, we've talked about how to protect yourself from cybercrime, but in the event that you are unfortunately the victim of a cybercrime, it's really important to act quickly. And there are a range of Australian governments or organizations that you can reach out to. The Australian Centre for Cybersecurity is the main one, so that's cyber.gov.au. They also have a hotline, 1300 Cyber One, that you can call if you want to speak to someone directly. If anything happens with your bank account, of course, call your bank right away as well to put a freeze on your account to make sure that any money that gets transferred is hopefully stopped in its tracks. But on that somber note, I am pleased to congratulate you for becoming a Cyber Warden today. So I hope that you all learned a thing or two. I hope that you can take a few tips back to your place of work. And especially, I hope that you can share this with your colleagues as well and encourage your colleagues to do the course as well. I will put back the QR code here. Make sure that you scan it to get your certificate. I'll leave it up on the screen for a few seconds, and then I'll just leave also the other courses that we have available while, if anyone has any questions, you can just pop them in the chat. And while Ben and I have a conversation, I'll make sure that you've got access to the course catalog. So
thanks for that, Kimberley. That's been fascinating. And just remind everybody, if you've got any questions for Kimberley, just pop them in the Q&A section below. I just had a couple of questions from that, Kimberley. You touched on phishing emails are a common problem, but I suppose the thing that I'm always aware of and scared of is, like, what should you do if you've actually clicked on one? Like, what's the next step?
If you click on one, look, the first thing is don't panic. Hopefully, if you click on one, you haven't then gone through the motions of putting your login credentials in. Clicking on it itself won't do anything until you actually put in your login credentials. But if you do happen to click on one and put in your login credentials, the first thing you want to do is go ahead and change your password on that account, but also on your other accounts if you're reusing that password across multiple accounts. So making sure that those passwords are updated as soon as possible. And then if you do work with an IT provider or a managed services provider with your team or your business, just let them know as well. And then also make sure that you are just on alert for any suspicious activity that might happen after you've clicked on the link. And take it as a lesson to slow down next time. But essentially, if you go ahead and change your password as soon as possible and report it where necessary, that should limit the damage.
Okay, that's great. And the other one I had, you touched on passwords and, you know, whether it's okay just to write your passwords down. I know I've got a little book that I write all of them down in, but I should really be changing them to a password manager. You know, what do you recommend with regards to a password manager?
There's quite a lot on the market, and we don't necessarily recommend a specific one. It'll depend on your business needs. It'll depend on your budget as well. What I do recommend, though, is doing, first of all, just a Google search of password managers. The most common ones will pop up. You'll see things like Keeper, OnePass, LastPass come up on your search. And then from there, just have a look at their plans. I would recommend, if budget allows, to secure a paid password manager plan. Depending on the size of your business, the plans will vary. But if you do work with multiple employees, all your employees can also have their own password manager from your plan as well. So it's really important that if you're going to have a password manager, you're not sharing that one login with everyone. It's really important to make sure that everybody has their unique login. So Keeper, OnePass, LastPass, even at the very bare minimum, using your browser password manager is a good start. Chrome has one, Bing has one, but I would urge people to upgrade where they can and to certainly ditch the booklet with the passwords written on them.
100%. And another one I've heard about is scammers actually faking voices now. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Is that true? Like that's happening?
Yeah, so that's where AI is becoming quite, I don't want to say scary, I don't want to be fear mongering about it, but AI is definitely more sophisticated. So they can use a clip, a very short clip of your voice, for example, Ben, and use it to craft a new request. So they would call your staff members, for example, and ask them to transfer some money. So it's really important if when that happens, if one of your staff members gets a phone call from you, again, that sounds a bit weird, that sounds a bit out of character, it's really important for them to check. So unfortunately, we can't just, rely on the fact that we're saying, Ben's calling me, I'll do what he's asking me. We just need to have our wits about us, because deep fakes are happening more and more with our voices and our face as well. So they can create deep fake videos very easily these days. So actually, that just prompts me. Here's our course catalog. So for anyone who's interested in any of that AI stuff, we have Safe AI for small businesses. We run webinars for that one, and we have it online as well. So if anyone wants to delve deeper into AI for small businesses, we do have a course targeted to that topic.
No, that's great. We're running a little bit over time, and I don't think we've had any other questions, but what I might do is in our newsletter on Friday, I'll include the level 2, the Safe AI for Small Business
Great.
link there as well. And just a quick reminder to everybody that's registered today or is watching this video later on, you can, of course, get all of your team to participate in the Cyber Wardens course, and would really encourage you to do that. We've done that with all of our team at ALNA, and it's been really valuable, the conversations that we've had after that training. Clearly, I've still got a bit more work to do though, so I might need to step up to the other course. But look, thanks again, Kimberley. It's been really valuable just to see where things are at with cybersecurity. It's a really important topic, obviously not one that we want to get caught out on, and those few small changes can protect us. So thanks again for your time, and thanks everybody who attended today.
Thanks, Ben. And yes, as you said, it's really important to be proactive with this. It's too late when something happens. So really having those tips and those tools at our disposal is what's going to make all small businesses across Australia cyber safer. So yes, and I will put the QR code back if anyone has completed this webinar, either live or on recording, and wants to get their certificate. That's the QR code to scan.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Kimberley, and
Thanks,
thanks everybody
everyone.
for attending.